government research organization. We try and stay on top of the tax and policy issues affecting the city, state, and county. And I think I'm one of the original members of this committee.
Sue.
Hi, Sue Avila from the Illinois Public Health Association.
Andrea.
Andrea Kluger, the Chicago Federation of Labor. We represent 300 unions who represent 500,000 working people in Chicago and Cook County.
Chris.
Hi, everybody. Chris Jessup, Manager of Local Community and Government Relations with the Illinois Health and Hospital Association. I represent IHA and our Chicagoland members in the City of Chicago, Cook County, and the Collier counties.
Fred.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Fred Lebed. I'm representing Healthcare Financial Management Association.
Marcia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Marcia Jimenez with Swedish Hospital, representing Safety Net Hospitals in the City of Chicago.
And I am Dr. Neva Lubin-Johnson. I represent Cook County Physicians Association. It is the local society for the Chicago area of the National Medical Association, representing African-American physicians across the country. So thank you, everyone, for being present today. The first order on the agenda is election of officers. And with that, I will state that I am not a candidate for chair, and so I will be operating these elections. And so with that, I'd like to open the floor for nominations for chair.
Eva, can I ask a question first?
Sure.
Are any other, well, I just saw Peter Orris join, for example. Are any of the other folks whose initials we see, anybody else on the committee?
I don't see any, I don't see any initials, but thank you. I see names listed on when I have participants up that says 15 right now, including staff, and I see Peter's name. So Peter, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm sorry. Yeah, sure.
That's okay.
We're on Teams here. I got something in my.
Here we are.
I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Hang on.
No problem.
Pin for me, hide for me. I don't know what any of that's saying. There I am. So I'm Peter Orris, and I'm representing the Chicago Medical Society. I'm a physician. I practice over at the University of Illinois in Voluntary County.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
And Chairman Johnson, this is Debbie. I apologize for interrupting. We also have two additional members, Lan Wen, who is proxy for Karen Teitelbaum, and it looks like Jennifer Vitus just joined too.
Okay. Lan, would you introduce yourself, and then Jennifer?
Good afternoon, everyone. Lan Wen from the Civic Committee of Chicago, and yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Good afternoon. It's Jen Vitus. I'm with the Chicago Department of Public Health. Nice to see you all.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Debbie, for those additions. All right. Any other questions or comments before we proceed with the elections? Being none, I'd now like to open the floor for nominations for chair. Yes, Peter.
Am I allowed to nominate Margie?
You are surely. You're a member. Yes, you are.
Oh, good.
I second the nomination.
And I will now move that nominations be closed.
I love Chicago. I just love it. Get stuff
She
done.
only said she was willing to do it. That was impressive in and of itself.
Does that really matter, Peter? I mean, really?
So with that, Margie Shops will be our chair, and I will complete the rest of our election. Any nominations for vice chair?
I'll do it again.
Okay.
I can do it if you want, Peter.
Well, also, who said she was willing to continue is Susan Avila. So I would nominate Susan Avila.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? Very well. I move that the nominations be closed on that candidate. And finally, for secretary, are there any nominations for secretary?
Who's willing? Peter, you want to be secretary?
Who?
I love democracy.
You-
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Karen. You want to introduce yourself to everyone? Well, I tell you what, we're in the midst of an election. Let me finish this. Any candidates for secretary of our nominating committee?
Is that Karen Tenenbaum who's just joined us?
Not Freeman Wilson.
Oh, okay. I would nominate Karen Freeman Wilson to be secretary.
I was just gonna do that, Lawrence. I'll second it.
All right, that's what happens when you show up late to the party.
Yes, Karen, because I'm going to state what I've said for the previous two officers today and move that the nominations be closed. So with that, can we have by acclamation, Margie Shops as our chair, Susan Avia as our vice chair, and Karen Freeman Wilson as our secretary? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And wonderful. With that, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure having been your chair over these past few years. And I appreciate, thank you, everyone. And I appreciate the help of our staff, especially the super efficient Debbie Santana, who has helped immensely over this time, would not have made it without her. And with that, Madam Chair, it's all yours.
Hey, thank you. Big shoes to fill.
Thank
So,
you.
Neva, thank you. You've really led this group with efficiency and smarts and clarity. So I really appreciate you. I'm sure everybody else does. So thanks a million. I will try to fill your shoes. And lean on you when I need to. So, I like that, Jen. I never do that one. That's great. So, okay, let's get through this agenda. The nominating process. Debbie, do you want to walk us through what the nominating process will look like?
Sorry about that. Sure. So first of all, going back to one of the earlier items on the agenda, public testimony, we did not receive any public testimony. I just wanted to state that for the record. So the nominating process, the committee has 45 days after being notified by the president to submit candidate names to fill vacancies. We have 4 vacancies that will be coming up at the end of the year. And so it's the committee's job to submit 3 names per vacancy. So that means 12 names. We are just about closing the date of our action meeting date, which is either going to be Thursday, the 19th, or Friday, the 20th of May. It looks like it may be the May 20th, but I'll let Chair Shaps look over the poll results. We typically at this meeting determine deadlines of when the materials should be turned in to me to flip into the candidate matrix and send out to the members in advance of the meeting. And I believe Chair Shaps is going to go over some options as far as when you guys want the materials. And I can do a pretty quick turnaround because they don't all come at the last minute. So besides that, I'm trying to think. We sent letters to the 4 directors whose terms are expiring to see if they are interested in being considered for renomination. And we also sent a letter to the county board president and the CCH chair to get some input from them on what type of qualifications they want to see in prospective candidates. Did I miss anything, Margie?
No, Debbie, thank you.
Okay.
So efficient. Okay. So I think there's a few decisions we have to make. One, and Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, or anybody else who's been on the committee for a long. Oh, Lawrence, you had a question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just, Debbie, maybe you could tell us. I think we have, how many of the nominating committee members are represented today? And how many do we have by ordinance that are supposed to participate?
We have 12 that are present today. Everyone is present today. The enabling ordinance has a listing of 13 member organizations. And it was determined between the last session in 2021 and this new session that the organization that Aida Giacello represented, they actually dissolved. They don't exist anymore.
Okay.
So normally it would be 13, but now it's 12.
That's great. I just wanted to make, yeah, that, so all the ones, the known organizations are all present or have some representative here.
That's correct.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and for clarity, for the person who, I think we got a couple who are representing, there was some, we'll say, we were kind of in a gray zone or questionable if that organization was going to be able to continue to participate at our last meeting. I think a lot of it had to do with COVID and that organization not being able to be functional, unfortunately, during the pandemic. And, you know, the next step for them, I guess they chose the solution. So that's what happened there.
You know, we've had a number of interactions with President Preckwinkle in this process in several prior times, and I'm wondering if this time we might add a suggestion that the board might look at the enlargement of the committee and looking for additional organizations. I think we did this originally and made that original list 20 some odd years ago, maybe more. And so it would be time, I think, to refresh involving more organizations and that might be interested in being helpful, because I don't know about you, but I'm running out of people that we can try to get to do this.
I think, especially since we lost the organization that Aida was representing, and she typically brought candidates who represented the Latina population. I think that however means it happens, that we do suggest that another entity that represents that segment of the population be appointed as a member of the committee. You know, it could be a letter to the president, you know, with that we acknowledge that dissolution and look for that representation. I don't know if it should come from a commissioner or what the means are getting that statute, but I think you bring up a good point, Peter, especially in this case of what has occurred with that organization.
I agree. I wonder, Debbie, what you think the best process for that would be. Should we talk about that here and make a recommendation? Should we be in touch with a commissioner?
I wonder if I'll let Debbie respond, but I have some thoughts on that as well.
Good.
Actually, Lawrence, go ahead. I could fill in some options, but I imagine that you might already have some ideas. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's fine to reach out to the president. I think there is a county board member whose responsibility it is to attend the meetings of the hospital board and tends to be more focused. The president has a designee now, as you may recall, on the board which she gets to appoint. So I'm not against, you know, conveying it to the president, but I think it is really a legislative action, and maybe a commissioner, ideally the commissioner. The old days it would have, you know, well, it could have been anyone. Larry Sufferdin, for those of those who remember the history, was one of the main people. He's now stepping down, retiring. But I think engaging in, and maybe even inviting the commissioner, one of the commissioners, or any of us individually can talk to the commissioners in terms of what they think. My challenge, I think, for all of us would be, where do you draw the line? You want to be open and broad. There's lots of different organizations that could participate in this. I think it's been challenging to even get the ones that are listed in the statute or the ordinance to participate. So it's not a direct answer, but I think maybe a dialogue in terms of looking at what's missing. And also, I think perhaps inviting the CEO, Israel, to speak to the committee, right? In terms of he's the CEO, what does he need or what does he see as a need on the board? And
No, I'm sorry, Larry, we're talking about two things, right? We're
Yeah.
talking about the composition of the nominating committee and what does he or President Preckwinkle see as needs, functional needs on the board. I just recall that the nominating committee itself was finally arrived at, that list at about 1 a.m, way back 25 years ago. I certainly forgot several nominees that I would have put on the list, and I didn't remember to do that. So I just think I don't disagree at all with your process of raising it with the chair of the health committee and raising it with President Preckwinkle to start a discussion about that. But it's certainly their decision, and it would have to be board action because this is delineated in the ordinance itself.
Neva, I think you had your hand up. And just for clarity's sake, everybody, the ordinance passed in 2006, I believe. Could have been 2007, but
we weren't so that's where I was going to go with some history. We weren't seated until 2009 was our first meeting that we came together to select nominees. And we were 14 organizations at that time. One was deemed, disqualified 2 or 3 years ago because they were getting funding from the county. And now we have this one that has dissolved. I'm not sure, like you started with Lawrence, that this is a legislative issue. I'm not sure what Rocha would add to it. But I think it's something that needs to be put to the president, if not to all, I don't know, potentially all the commissioners, but I think it's food for thought. I don't think we necessarily we can't make a decision today, because even if we did, it's not going to get done anytime soon. But I think it is something for us to consider, at this point because of what has transpired.
well, so we're not going to move that today. I wonder if people want to submit organizations that you think might be additive to this group. If you want to submit those to me, I can put together a list and then circulate that, and then we can figure out a process later. Would that work for folks?
I guess so, but we're really not empowered to do this, as Larry says.
Yeah.
Really, we need to get feedback from the board and the president and or commissioner that they are interested in entertaining that in one way or another, because it really is their process. And then we and anybody else in the city or county could be making suggestions.
Well, okay, yeah, Peter, good point. I would volunteer to talk with Larry Suffredin and get his wisdom. I know he is stepping off, whoever made that point, but he was the originator of this. So maybe just getting his thoughts about how to begin to move forward with it.
Yeah, I would say that's an excellent suggestion, Margie, as a place to start. But also, I like your suggestion. I mean, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We could send you suggestions of organizations also to consider, in the meantime, while you're waiting to have that conversation with them. And if he thinks that that's the way to go, at least you have them to move forward on a letter, that goes to the president, if that's what he suggests.
Great. Okay, so why don't we say in the next 10 days or so, send me groups. I mean, we won't close this, but just to keep it top of mind, if you have groups that you think would make good contributions to this nominating committee, send them my way. I'll just keep a list going. Meanwhile, I'll talk to Larry Suffredin, see what he suggests, and I'll let everybody know. Okay.
Sounds good.
Lawrence, do you still have your hand up?
Yeah, I re-raised my hand. I think that's good. I think from the Civic Federation standpoint, I think as a group that monitors the healthcare board on a regular basis, I think looking for groups that are engaged in the healthcare planning or in monitoring the board would be a good place to start. People that, are sort of engaged. And one group that I think would fit that bill would be the League of Women Voters, which oftentimes is monitoring what's going on at the healthcare board when the Civic Federation and staff are present there. So just another idea. But
So Lawrence, would you send that to me in an email? So I'll put it on the list as I develop it?
I'm
sure.
I'm really concerned about prerogatives here. And I really think that this should be an informal process and we should get the advice of the president on how she'd like to move on it or not move on it. I agree with Dr. Suffredin. I think he's great and I like, this whole approach, but I don't want to take this away from the president. She remains a dominant political figure on the board itself.
So I would say, Peter, that I hear what you're saying, but I think Larry being, Commissioner Suffredin being the originator of of this to begin with, I think is a good place to start. I don't think it may not be an either or, it could be a both. But I think both is starting with him. And on the reverse side, that's another reason why we need to talk to him. She is such a force. And so, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, and any other comments on this? Or we'll move ahead with our process. Okay, thank you all. Nominating process. My recollection of how we do this is that each member of this committee can submit up to the number of vacancies, nominate up to the number of vacancies that we have. So each of, in this instance, that would mean that each of us could submit up to 4 names. But the last couple of years, we haven't had that many names submitted. If we all submit 4 names, we'll have a lot to go through. So how do people feel about continuing that tradition? Because we could certainly change it. It's our plan.
So we actually have changed it, I think, the last couple of times and made it less than what the allotment is, because based on the numbers of what we had for vacancies and what we would get, it'd be crazy. So I would like to move that each organization submit 3 names, up to 3 names per organization. And that would put us at 36 maximum. So that would be my motion.
Is there a second, Lawrence? I'll come to you for discussion in a moment.
I'm happy to second that motion. I think it's reasonable. I think my point that the 2 other points that I was going to raise is are really more about what people, just reinforcing that people talk with their nominees before the nominating process to make sure that the would-be nominees understand how big of a time commitment this is, how big. And again, I think in fairness for people who haven't done this before, it often takes a couple of cycles to get someone elected to the board, because the president may not pick our nominee, or the nominee who might be good isn't familiar with enough people, and so it takes a process. But I think 3 people at this stage of the game, and I think Peter, sort of alluded to it as well, it's a lot of people to convince to volunteer to serve something that in many cases is 10 to 12 hours a month of prep time and meeting, and they have to serve on a subcommittee and all that. The other question that I have is, in the past, we've also, as part of it, automatically nominated any existing board member who seeks to be renominated. And we usually get a response from all of the members whose term is expiring as to whether they want to be renominated. Hopefully we can get that. I had the chance encounter with Mike Ketting yesterday, and he left me without a clear indication of whether he wants to be renominated. I think he does, but he wanted to talk more about it.
And I think Debbie said at the beginning that each of them, the 4 people have gotten a letter, or they will be getting a letter asking them to commit to whether they'd like to be renominated.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, yeah.
That might have been early on.
But I think you underline, Lawrence, that there ought to be a personal outreach also, informal, if you will, but to ask people if they're willing to come back. You know, the continuity here is something that I think is important. The president has not thought so in the past, but I think this is something we ought to think about. So getting some of those people to re-up, if you will, might be done personally as well.
Also, I believe that the current board chair is talking with those members who are up for, you know, a renomination if they want to also.
Yeah, another thing that I think the benefit of extending terms for people is people are of varying degrees of comfort in terms of their express participation in the public meetings. And there has been some concern or awareness that many of the members are not vocalizing positions or asking questions during the public components. We don't know what goes on when they're in executive session. Maybe they're all engaged in that, but I think that's also something to be thinking about in terms of all of our nominees. Are these people do they understand that we want them there more than just to monitor, but to bring their expertise and ask questions and raise issues?
And Marcia, I think that you had your hand
Yes,
up.
I wanted to request that we also solicit now the desire of the president with regard to what kind of people we're looking for, whether it's someone with a financial background, a legal background. That's been very helpful in the past. And the sooner we know that, the better.
Yeah, that's been solicited, as has Mr. Rocha's thoughts about additional skills on the board. So hopefully, Debbie, you'll circulate that to us, Debbie, as soon as we get those letters back. Yeah.
And actually, it was the board chair and President Preckwinkle.
Okay.
Those two, yeah.
Yeah, I think I think if the President Roach or President Preckwinkle, either one, they've communicated it. Maybe, I mean, I know President Preckwinkle has, but to Dr. Johnson's point, it has been very helpful when the existing chairman articulates what he or she is looking for in terms of issues that they come up that they don't feel they have covered in terms of their existing members, and that helps target who we look for.
Right. Yeah. And I would encourage everyone who's got somebody whose term is ending to communicate with them as soon as possible so they can let the board chair know, so that he, you know, if that's the expertise he's going to lose, that he puts it in his response to us.
Yep. And Peter, your hand's up, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to experiment with that, with that emoji. Also, just if anybody is new in talking with people about whether they would be willing to serve, I think you have to realize it's a two-step process. The first step is people are flattered to be asked, and they think this is an important board, and they know that the hospital is important, but they don't sum it up initially with respect to what kind of a time commitment this is and an unpaid time commitment that should be added. So it's good to go back more than once while people can think it over for a bit. Just 2 cents.
That's great. Okay, so Marcia, yes. Can't hear you.
Just to make sure that we're all on the same page with regard to residency. And I know we've received some more information.
The information that was sent was the opinion from 2016 that it is something to be considered, but it is not required. And so I look at that as, you know, you got good candidate A, good candidate B. If good candidate A lives in the county, that's who gets it, and B doesn't. And we actually had that occur on at least one occasion where we did have somebody submitted who worked in the county, but maybe lived outside. And I think we as a committee didn't vote to move them forward.
Any other discussion on the motion, or we will move to a vote? To remind you, the Marcia, is your hand up again?
No,
Okay. To remind everybody, the motion is that we all submit up to 3 nominations. Okay, so Debbie, you want to take roll call, or does somebody else do that?
She does.
Roll call on the motion as stated by Chair Shaps. Aye or nay? Ms. Jimenez?
aye.
Jennifer Vias?
Aye.
Andrea Kluger?
Aye.
Dr. Orris? Dr. Orris, you're muted.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. And just so there's no confusion, I'm actually doing it alphabetically by organization name, so I apologize. That's confusing. Karen Freeman Wilson?
Aye.
Lan Wen?
Aye.
Lawrence Nassau?
Aye.
Dr. Neva Lubin Johnson?
Aye.
Margie Shaps?
Aye.
Fred Lebed?
Aye, Deb.
Susan Avila?
Aye.
And Chris Jessup?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay. Okay, any other questions about the nominating process?
A date for submitting materials.
Yep.
Um,
Okay. You have a suggestion for that? If we're working backwards from the 19th or the 20th, we will have our meeting either on the 19th or the 20th. And if you haven't responded to Debbie's question about your preference, please do after this meeting, or do you want folks, Debbie, to respond here?
I've received all of the responses. I just need to provide that to you so you can decide, because it's kind of narrowly split, but we have some that absolutely can't attend one day. So I'll let you decide.
Okay, all right, so I'll look at that. So let's work backwards from the 19th or 20th. And I think, Debbie, you're okay as long, your limit is at least 2 days before that meeting. You need all of the, information, right?
Ultimately, I'd like to know when you need it, because that's what drives when I get it. Because I think we've ranged probably about 2 days before the meeting, 2 business days. Is that about right? So if we have the meeting on Friday, the 20th, I can turn it, if we make the deadline the 18th at 9 a.m., then I can turn around and give you it same day at noon, if that works for you.
So I would like to ask that we have things turned in a bit earlier than the 18th. And if everyone is in agreement, how about Friday, the 13th? Friday, the 13th, to have submitted to Debbie, because I'm gonna be honest, my 20th wedding anniversary is Wednesday, May 18th. And I'm having a party, and we're having a party. So there's a good guarantee if I get them Monday or Tuesday, yeah, I'm really gonna pay attention and read. But if I get it on Wednesday for Thursday, probably not. Friday, yeah, maybe. So I'm just gonna ask, and that would still give us plenty of time. We still have over 2 weeks to get the information to Debbie. So how does everyone feel about Friday?
Only if you send us cake.
So I've so moved that we have our materials in by Friday, May 13th.
Well, we have to set a hard deadline, right? Because
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so our deadline
5
to
o'clock
Debbie
on the 13th.
is May 13th. That's 2.5 weeks.
And Debbie, we don't expect you to work on the weekend. So if you get it to us by late in the day on Monday, the 16th, that works for everybody, I think. Marcia, you have a question?
Just a comment that it takes a lot of time and conversation back and forth with people. I need as much time as I can get. If others can get it done sooner, I'll work to meet that deadline, but if I can have more days, then take it.
I honestly don't think we've had 2.5 weeks before. I think we've typically been like 2 weeks tops. So, you know, how does I mean, well, I made a motion, so. Did somebody second?
Can we ask Debbie for a comment? Does this make sense mechanically?
I can get it turned around to you within 4 hours after the final deadline. Regardless, whatever day you say, because you don't send it all at once. So I take care of things as they come in.
Mhm.
So what if we made, if we made midday on Monday, so you turned it around by the end of the day, then that sort of meets everybody, a little bit of everybody's position. So we'd have it to look at on Tuesday, Wednesday. The soonest we're going to meet again is Thursday.
Yeah, but if we're talking about looking at 30, to be honest.
So you want them,
because we have to look at them, right?
Right.
so you want it even sooner than the 13th, Karen, you're saying?
No, I'm saying if
She
the
wants,
13th
Mhm.
is that Friday, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because you won't have
Yeah,
it then,
so-
you'll have it
Right.
on Monday.
Right.
Yeah, if we have it by,
Thir-
because Debbie's not working the weekend.
We hope not.
She better
Yeah,
not.
no, yeah.
Honestly, I
we're
will
not
work
trying to-
that. I will give it to you Saturday if you want. That's
So we could
honestly,
do-
I have no problem.
How about Thursday, the 12th then? That's still 2 weeks, 2 days, 14 days. And then that means we'll all get it on Friday the 13th.
Well, Karen, are you thinking that the end of the day, Monday is too late to you?
Yeah, I'm thinking that end of the day, Monday is too late, because that means Debbie probably won't get it to us until sometime on Tuesday. And we have lost that downtime. But, I'll go with the majority and make it work. I'm just thinking about the ability to carve out some time to really give a review of the application.
And she's correct. This is probably the most potential we've had to read in a while. We haven't done 4 vacancies in quite some time. Although we may not get to, well, let's see, 36 minus 4. Potentially, the potential could be 32 if I'll say they're going to, put their names in for a renomination. But potentially, if they all said no, it'd be 36. So, I would anticipate us getting a couple of dozen names based on prior history anyway. So, because someone will submit 3, some will submit 1, and it's probably going to be at least a couple dozen, which is the most I think we've had in some time. I don't think we've been over 20 in some time in terms of applications to read. Definitely before Attorney Wilson's time.
What does everybody else think about how much time you need?
And Madam Chair, if it's
Yeah.
okay with you, I'll amend my motion to Thursday, the 12th.
At the end of
Close
the
the
day?
business.
So-
Close the business, yes.
Okay.
I think,
Anybody want to
Yeah.
second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
I think it's a very difficult thing because I think there's pressure on both ends, right? The reality is if you're trying to carve out enough time to review everybody else's submission in advance, you'd want as much time as possible. Experience of most of us has been that you spend a lot of time chasing people in order to get them. So if we hung up the phone today, right, it's going to take a while to get them. So I think if I look at it, the greater risk is not having enough qualified nominees is more than whether we'll have the time to read them in advance, because a lot of our knowledge comes about in the process afterwards when we actually have the meeting and people then present them. So I guess if weighing my sympathies, I'm very sympathetic to giving all of us enough time to convince the best possible candidates to agree to do their fact checking, to check with their, professional colleagues or whatever as to what we want to do it. That's for new people that have been in the process for 4 or 5 years, because there are some people that will emerge. It won't be that hard, but brand new people, it's 2 weeks is a quick turnaround to agreeing to put yourself out there publicly and present the conflict, do the conflict check and make sure. And then something we have not talked about is what happens to those nominees and what they have to provide financially if they effectively become the candidate. There's a lot of things that go into deciding whether you want to be.
This is Fred. I totally agree with Lawrence. I will make whatever work, and I will. My goal is, of course, to have 3 candidates, but it takes a while. If it's physically possible, I meet with each candidate. I really get to know each candidate. I get to know. I'm making a joke as what their favorite color is. Just about. And it takes a while. It really does take a while. I'll repeat what I said just 30 seconds. I'll make whatever work, but I really agree. The more time, the better.
Chris, you had your hand up. Thank you, everybody, for these comments. Chris?
Yeah, wondered, and apologies if it was mentioned when we were discussing it earlier, but I wondered if there was a timeline on when we would receive the needed expertise or the recommended expertise, because I feel like that plays into this conversation a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, fair question. And I don't know that we know the answer, do we?
I don't think there was a deadline put in the letter, but we can send another, Margie, if you agree, I think, we can send another communication saying, we'd like to know by next Monday. They would have had a week. They got the letter yesterday.
I think that's a great idea, because it's really, and it's a good point, Chris. I can't start the process until I know if I'm looking for an HR background, if I'm looking for financial. That's a real good point.
So, and that can go to the president, the chairman, and the candidate. The current members. I'll put it like that. The current members. So.
Okay, let's do that and ask for it by next Monday. So. Yeah. Great point, I think.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Okay, we still have to decide on, so let's assume we get that on Monday, and we send that out to all of you. So by the end of Monday, you will know. You probably have people in your mind, though. I mean, think about the positions we're losing. Mike Ketting, his expertise is in state government, Medicaid, HFS. Well, I don't know if we want to go through all of them, but I think everybody knows. Everybody knows who the 4 are that we're losing. So you probably you got your wheels.
Could lose.
It would be helpful if you would repeat the 4 besides Mike, the other 3.
Yeah. David Munar, Heather Pendergrast, and Mike Ketting, Ada Mary Guggenheim.
Yeah, and I would say that Mike Ketting and Ms. Guggenheim are 2 of the most vocal people in the public meetings. And that doesn't mean they're that vocal, but there are the few that talk. We have others that don't speak at all. So it's really, So again, that's just something from the Civic Federation and our monitoring and engaging with the health board or the Cook County Independent Hospital Board that we see is something we'd like to emphasize. It's building public support, understanding the decision-making support for the hospital, we think can be tied to public speaking.
Thank you. Well, how about this? Let me throw out an alternative. If we make the deadline midday on Friday, if Debbie can turn it around, if we say noon, Debbie, sounds like you need 4 hours, so you could turn it around to us by the end of the day Friday. So those of us who have the time and ability can have the weekend to take a look and start to to do our own study of this. And if you don't, you still have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, potentially also Thursday, except for Dr. Johnson, who we know is going to be otherwise engaged, but
That's okay.
she will have Monday, Tuesday. This
And
gives
I
you-
could have the weekend if
Yeah,
we get a 4-hour
exactly.
turnaround, which would be great for me.
So how about that as a compromise solution?
I'm with Friday at noon, so I'll amend the Friday at noon.
Okay, second for that?
So that works for me.
Do a roll call or any other comments on that? Okay, let's.
Can we do that by acclamation? We need a roll call.
We have the roll call.
And I FYI, everybody, I just got a text from Sue Avila. She lost internet connection, so she'll join us if she can.
Okay.
A likely story.
Yeah.
It's a frozen.
And one that we typically believe these days.
Right. Literally frozen, as in ice and frozen.
Yeah, really. Okay, roll call for Friday, May 13th at noon to have all of our recommendations to Debbie to put together our list. And thank you, Debbie, for your being so flexible and turning this around so quick.
Sure, no problem. So roll call vote, aye or nay? Marcia Jimenez,
Aye.
Jennifer Vitus,
Aye.
Andrea Kluger,
Aye.
Dr. Orris,
Aye.
Karen Freeman Wilson,
Aye.
Lan Wen,
Aye.
Lawrence Massal,
Affirmative.
Dr. Neva Lubin Johnson,
Yes.
Margie Epps,
Right?
Fred Labette,
Aye.
Susan Avila. Does not look like she's joined us again. And Chris Jessup.
Aye.
So you have 11 yays and 1 absent.
Okay, carries. I'm letting Sue know that. All righty. Okay, I think we've figured out our timeline. I will get back to everybody about whether it's the 19th or 20th for the moment. Hold both of those times and we'll let you know in the next 24 hours. How's that? We'll confirm, and I think we can entertain a motion for adjournment unless anybody has any other
I have
business.
one question. I
Sure.
do want to have a procedural question for those who are not available for one of the other dates. Is there a mechanism for us to submit our preferences, or how does that work?
Debbie, help me out on that. I don't think so. I think you have to be present.
But you can send a representative to the
Right.
meeting on your
Okay.
behalf,
Okay.
right?
I think we allowed in the past you to do that through another member of the committee. Perhaps, am I correct or not on that?
I don't think so.
No, a representative from your organization.
Okay.
I mean, we
Mhm.
could figure out some way, and I'm not against it, but it would take some thinking. If you wanted to work with proxies, if somebody wants to provide proxy voting, I think it would add another layer of complexity to it. And I'm not sure. I guess my one reservation would be,
Another rep is fine. I think
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah, another.
there's
you want
so
another
much that you learn at the meeting where we're actually going through the candidates that I would be hesitant about choosing them before the meeting, right? There might be some people that you feel strongly or more strongly, but at the meeting, we tend to get a lot more into the specificity of the different candidates.
Plus you
I
wanna-
agree with you, Lawrence. I know I have opened my eyes to new people at that meeting when I hear about them. So, yes, Neva, do you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, the advantage of your representative is them presenting your candidates. You know, so that's why you want your representative there to present your candidates also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I had one question, and Deb, forgive me if you sent this in your package. Do you have those requirements of a board member? X amount of hours. I know that I've had that in the past, but did you send that out again, or can you?
Chair Hammock, former Chair Hammock, in last year's session, he put together a little cheat sheet that had that kind of details. And so I have updated it in a draft form for our current chair, Taylor, and it's my hope to have that go with his letter on qualifications.
Great, perfect. Thank you.
Anything else before we adjourn? We needed a motion to adjourn, right, Debbie?
So move.
Fredo, second.
Madam Chair, great meeting.
Thank you, Madam Former Chair.
You're welcome.
Trying to do you proud.
Wonderful.
Okay, Debbie. do we
Have a
to
good
go?
afternoon, everyone.
Have a good
Thanks,
afternoon.
everyone.
Madam
Hold on,
Chair,
dear.
Okay.
we don't need a roll call vote. You can just do it by voice. Aye.
Bye, everybody.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.